There was one skill that allowed me to go from a software engineer making about $10,000 a month to a software engineer making $1.4 million in the past 3 months with my company. And no, it wasn't coding, it wasn't learning any new frameworks, it wasn't any of that stuff. In fact, it was something that nobody ever talks about. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you, as a software engineer, can use the same exact skill to not only make more money, but to create an entire life of freedom such that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want it, however you want it. Without further ado, let's get into it. And before we do, this isn't something that only worked for me. It worked for countless other people, especially for my students in Code to CEO. So if you want to more learn about that, links in the description. Without further ado, let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking about resourcefulness. And this is the skill that actually took me from making $10,000 a month when I first started as a junior developer to now making over 1.4 million every 3 months, right? Averaging about $400,000 to $500,000 a month. And we're going to be talking about what resourcefulness actually is, why it matters, the fundamentals of it, and how you yourself can be more resourceful in your everyday life as a software engineer. So whether you're a beginner, whether you are already an expert, whether you already have your own business as a software engineer, this video will be extremely important for you. So pay careful attention. So let's get started with understanding what resourcefulness actually is. So by definition, it's simply the ability to find quick and clever ways to overcome difficulties. So pretty simple to understand, right? Nothing too complicated. So let's see why it actually matters and why I'm making an entire video on why it matters. So the first thing you need to understand is that as software engineers, our tech world moves way too fast, right? So let alone the regular people, even we as software engineers have a relatively hard time kind of keeping up with all the advancements, especially in AI alone, right? And you have so many other things in tech. And no matter how skilled you are, there will always be a new framework, a new technology, a new tool, or a new unexpected challenge that you simply are not aware of yet. And you cannot outlearn the speed of change as it happens. There are 8 billion people on this planet, and there's countless millions of people consistently working on creating new stuff. So you as one person, you cannot ever expect to keep up with all that information. And you might ask yourself, oh, but I'm a 10x programmer, I can. Does not matter. Time is running out and your clock is ticking. What most people don't understand is that, yes, if you had infinite amount of time, then maybe you could learn everything, but we don't have infinite amount of time. The average person actually only has 30,000 days to live. And if you are 30, you've already spent 11,000 of those days, meaning you have 19,000 left. So how will you actually use the rest of these 19,000 days that you have, or the rest of the days that you have? Well, you need to be able to actually hone the ability to identify the resources available to you and the best way to use these resources to get what you want out of life. So if you're a software engineer, be it starting a business, making more money, getting more freedom, whatever the case, whatever that what you want out of life actually is. You need to focus on actually making that ability, honing that ability to be able to identify the resources you have and how to best use them to get what you want to get. Now, the reason I say that is because most software engineers actually all fall into the same exact career trap. They get stuck doing what they're told instead of solving real world problems. And thus, they have a very fixed mindset of, oh, I'll wait for somebody to tell me what to do, right? This type of mindset is adopted. And I mean, it makes sense, right? If you go into a 9-to-5 environment, your 9-to-5 job is just going to be strictly what your manager tells you to do or what your boss tells you to do. You do that, exactly that, no more, no less. You get paid for your time. You go back and do whatever the hell you want to do the rest of the day. And this largely actually stems from our education. So imagine that you're a puzzle piece, okay? And the education system, especially in the United States, as it's traditionally set up, is the puzzle board. And each piece, each piece, in this case, each software engineer, is expected to fit neatly into a predetermined shape. And if your edges do not align, the system tries to trim or reshape you until you do. This is why you see that there's almost no creative freedom in the typical 9-to-5, right? Especially as a software engineer where your role is to create. You don't do much of creating, do you? And in this puzzle, the goal isn't to embrace each piece's unique design or find creative ways for them to connect. It's to match the existing pattern that's laid out for you. So you need to kind of step out of this puzzle board because we need to begin adopting the I'll figure out how to create value on my own type of mentality, such that we're not dependent on a boss or another person, right? Or a 9 to 5 job, because that's the only way we can truly be resourceful, right? Because staying comfortable is going to be the fastest way for you to become obsolete. And funnily enough, most of you watching this will probably begin doubting your own potential. You'll begin to doubt and underestimate yourself, and you'll think to yourself, okay, but can I ever really start a business? And guess what? We grossly overestimate what we can do in a day, but we severely underestimate what we can do in a year. And I've seen this time and time again. John, one of my students, joined Code to CEO, and within the first month, it hasn't even been the first month, he already made $22,500 as a software engineer. Or take Dom, who's already been with me for already a little over 5 months, and he's already closing deals left and right, getting people on retainers and charging one-time project fees. So all these individuals, Dom and John included, they all overestimated what they can do in a day, but grossly underestimated what they could have done in a year, and in some cases, in a few months, right? So let's understand what the fundamentals of resourcefulness actually are, such that we can learn how to better kind of become resourceful. Resourcefulness is really composed of 3 pillars. So the first is asking the right questions at the very top. And then we have leveraging other people. So leveraging other people's knowledge, finances, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, creating solutions with what we already have. And this is extremely important for you to understand is that resourcefulness is a system. It is not a personality trait. You're not born with it. It's not like some people have it, some people don't. No, it's a system that everybody can learn and adopt. Okay? So let's start with pillar number 1, asking the right questions. So whether you're in a corporate environment or especially if you're in business, you need to ask the right questions because the best engineers don't just ask, how do I fix this? Instead, they ask, what's the real problem here? What's the real problem behind this that I can immediately target? So instead of saying, why does this bug keep happening? You need to ask, how can we prevent this bug from ever happening again, right? So instead of treating the symptom, you want to treat the root cause. Or instead of asking, how do I use this framework? You should ask, what problem was this framework designed to solve? Because that will give you the exact way for you to use the specific framework. And kind of case in point is you need to slow down on asking what oriented questions, and you need to start asking more why and how type of questions. So why is this happening? How can this be improved? And even if you are going to ask what, it should be about asking what is the simplest solution. So Occam's razor in this case, which means that for any specific problem, the simplest solution is most likely the best one. And in my personal experience, this has always been the case. So just to kind of recap what a bad question would look like and what a better question would look like. So how do I use this framework? What problems was this framework designed to solve? How do I fix this bug? How can I prevent this entire class of bugs in the first place? What tools should I learn next? What problem am I trying to solve? Okay, if we can learn to ask these types of questions, we'll naturally become more resourceful. So the way I actually do this is I'm a big proponent of first principles thinking, which means that instead of, let's say, asking how do I make a faster car, I ask what actually makes a car fast. Because if I understand what actually makes a car fast, then I can make a faster car. So instead of asking how do I make my code run faster, you ask what's actually slowing it down. And the fundamental point is that the better questions we ask, the faster we will get to the solution and the more impact we will have as a direct result. So let's move on to pillar number 2, leveraging other people. The best thing about this world is that you don't need to know everything. You just need to know somebody who already does, or you need to know somebody who can connect you to somebody who does, right? And according to the 6 degrees of separation, also known as the 6 handshake theory, all people on the planet are 6 or fewer social connections away from one another. So if you really need to even, let's say, meet Elon Musk or get in contact with him, technically you are able to if you are resourceful enough with your current resources, right? In this case being your network. So you can apply this to not only people's knowledge, but also people's money, be it for investments, be it for any type of pitch that you're going to do. And this is how you actually leverage people. And another thing as well with leveraging people is that understand that success actually leaves clues. So SpaceX learned from NASA's failures before designing the Falcon 9. Stripe actually built its infrastructure by studying Amazon's scaling strategies. So anytime that you see success, it leaves clues. And especially if you pair it with leveraging other people, be it leveraging other people's knowledge, leveraging other people's finances, leveraging other people's mistakes, leveraging other people's success stories, you are able to become a lot more resourceful. And especially with nowadays, you have AI on top of all the human knowledge, and you'll essentially get what's called exponential learning. So, on top of everything we talked about, on top of leveraging other people, you're now able to also leverage AI. So, it's just cherry on top. And once again, I want to kind of finalize this point. You don't have to be the smartest, you just need to learn from the smartest. And you can do that by leveraging other people. So, pillar number 3, creating solutions with what you already have. So you need to understand that more tools don't necessarily make you better. Better thinking does, because how you think is going to determine how you use your tools. And a master craftsman can still build something better with worse tools than somebody who has no clue what he's doing and he has the best tools, right? And to even piggyback off this, constraints actually force innovation. So if you don't have all the tools in your hand, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because you don't need the perfect condition to do anything. You just need a creative approach to what it is that you're going to want to do, right? Be it starting a business, whatever the case. And another thing is that you also have a lot more resources than you think you do. It's just you've never taken the time to visualize it. So after working with over 100 software engineers and helping them start a business, I've noticed that every single one of them underestimated the resources that they had because they simply weren't aware of it. So for them to fundamentally become more resourceful, they first had to understand the resources they had. And none of these people ever asked themselves, who's in their network, right? How many opportunities are in their local area? Be it through local business meetups, be it through a local chamber of commerce. What experiences are unique to them and them only? Be it from a cultural side of things, be it from a life experience side of things, be it from a technical side of things. Everybody has a lot more resources than they think they do. And once again, it's always about a resourcefulness problem as opposed to a resource problem, at least for 99% of people. Now, let's talk about how to actually become more resourceful. Because we discussed the fundamentals of resourcefulness, let's talk about how we can actually become a lot more resourceful. And everything really boils down to the Pareto principle, right? We need to understand the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle suggests that 80% of our outcomes actually come from 20% of our inputs. So 20% of the effort that we put in leads us to 80% of the results. So the first step in actually becoming more resourceful, right? You need to understand what 20% of your inputs lead to 80% of your outcomes. So this is especially true in business. What 20% of your inputs lead you to 80% of the results in your business? So let's say 80% of your revenue. From what 20% is it coming from, right? Probably lead acquisition, sales, right? And there's so much other stuff that you don't need to be doing. And just apply this to your own specific life as a software engineer, be it in a 9 to 5 environment or be it especially if you have a business. And then you need to ask yourself, based on the 20% that you kind of found, right? You need to ask yourself, does this skill solve a recurring problem? So is this problem an evergreen problem? Is there going to be a time where this problem no longer exists, or is this the type of problem that will continually exist? And will the skill that you were leveraging to get 80% of the results, will it still be useless 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, right? Is it future proof? And can this same skill help you automate or scale your work? Or is it something that's completely determined on linear time? Or is it something that can be leveraged, right? Because once you kind of ask these type of questions, on top of figuring out which 20% of your inputs contribute to which 80% of your outputs, you'll be able to fundamentally understand what you need to focus on and what you need to completely just ignore. Okay. Now, next, when it comes to becoming actually more resourceful, you need to adopt a Google first habit, or I should say, in this case nowadays, a ChatGPT first habit. So, chances are, whenever you face a problem, you are not the first human to face that exact problem. The chances of you facing a problem and you being the first one is going to be extremely low. So, most often than not, somebody else has faced that exact same problem, and what you need to be doing is actually trying to search for existing solutions before you try to brute force or waste any more time on it. Now, people will say that, okay, an argument can be made that one should figure out the answer themselves and not take a look at things instantly. But to that, I would say that time is simply too valuable for you to do that. Especially if, let's say, you're using ChatGPT to immediately find an answer, ask it, how did it come to that answer, such that you yourself now understand how it came to that answer. and you can go from there. But do not waste more than 30 minutes on a specific problem and try to figure it out on your own. Time is way too valuable. You only have 30,000 days to live, okay? Always keep that in the back of your mind. Next thing on becoming more resourceful is you need to continually test and iterate. You learn more in 1 day of prototyping than in 1 month of theoretical planning. So the more action you can take, the more you can do, the better it's going to be. Because the more you can test, the more angles you can test, be it in your marketing, be it in your sales, whatever the case, especially if you have a business, the better everything is simply going to go. Because small improvements over time will create exponential growth. And remember, compound interest, according to Albert Einstein, is the eighth wonder of the world. So to kind of recap everything, for you to be able to become more resourceful, you fundamentally have to understand that it's a resourcefulness problem and not a resource problem. You have a lot more resources than you think you do, through your network, through your physical location, what it offers you, and alongside your experiences, life experiences and technical experiences, right? You first need to understand the resources available to you for you to be able to become resourceful. Because just like budgeting, you need to know how much money you make a month for you to be able to properly budget it accordingly. After you understand the resources available to you, you need to start asking the proper questions, right? You start asking the questions to kind of understand what 20% of your inputs are leading to which 80% of the outputs, right? Especially if you have a business. What 20% of the things do you do that contribute to 80% of the revenue being generated? And after that, after you find out which essentially those skills are, you then ask yourself, are these skills future proof? They are future proof and they do get you 80% of the results, then you need to hone on those skills specifically. You need to focus on those skills and trying to master those skills and getting even better at those skills, because that's essentially how you're going to skyrocket. And once you figured out the resources that you have, once you figured out what leads to what type of result, right, which 20% leads to which 80% of the result, now is the time for you to continually test and iterate new things, right? Continually test, because the more you test, the more feedback you'll get, and you can use that feedback to improve even further. And that really is all resourcefulness is about. It's understanding what resources you have available to you, right? Figuring out how to best use them based on the 20% of the inputs that get you 80% of the outputs. And of course, in the meantime, being able to utilize other people's knowledge, other people's resources. But all that fundamentally falls in the resources that you have in the three categories: physical location, network, and your experiences, right? And last but not least, it's about asking the right questions, right? It's about searching for a solution first and foremost and really valuing your time, really having a high standard for your time because you only have 30,000 days to live, right? And once you do all that, resourcefulness will become a system that's quite familiar and not as foreign to you anymore. So without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions whatsoever, leave them in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for watching.